Life is filled with ups and downs, twists and turns. We never know what's going to happen. And sometimes a tragedy comes into our life and we find ourselves maybe spiraling down. But how do we come out of that? Well, writing is one of the greatest ways that we can do this. It's a very cathartic experience and something that we're going to be talking a little bit about today, whether it's blogging, journaling, writing a book, writing a post or whatever. Writing our stories, writing our messages can help us to heal in various ways. We'll be talking about that today with one of our authors, Joy Greenberg. And we're also going to be talking about, life transitions and how do we keep going through those tough times. So stick around. You definitely want to stay around for this. Hi, my name is Linda Sunshine West. I'm the founder at Action Takers Publishing, where we bring you stories to help you to improve your life. You can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We're at Action Takers Publishing. I'm excited to introduce to you today one of our authors, Joy Greenberg. She's in one of our books titled Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities, and she's also written her own book called The Joy of Kindness. Is that the name of it?
Kindness lives inside of all of us.
Kindness lives inside of all of us. I got the kindness part there. But Lisa, I'm so excited to have you here today because all of us, we all go through some sorts of challenges in our lives, ups and downs. And you started doing something, started blogging a little over 10 years ago, December of 2014, in order to start to share your thoughts. And I would love to talk about the progression that you've had with that, because that's almost 11 years, as the recording of this interview here today, which is June of 2025, is that's almost 11 years. And that's a long time to do a blog. So what I'd like to kind of dive into that is, what has blogging done for you in your life? And how do you decide, what you're going to put out there into the world?
Thanks for that question, Linda. It's really nice to be here with you today. It's been very clear to me, and I think it's become clearer and clearer even to this day as I'm writing all these years later, that when I have thoughts, when I have strong feelings and emotions, when I'm having aha moments, I tend to want to write. And so I start to write, and it's just, for me, natural at this point, and it helps me to really get into the feeling, and it's a time to spend with myself.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. And what came to mind when you were saying that is why blog as opposed to journal? Because journals are typically something we do in the privacy of our home, in our bedroom. Maybe we have a journal that has a lock on it. Like when we were kids, remember we had those little locks on?
I had that.
It was under our bed, and then our brother found it anyway, right? That kind of thing. But so a journal is more like that private thing that we don't really want to share with other people. Whereas a blog, it can still be that private thing, but we want to share it with people. So what made you decide to do a blog as opposed to just jotting these things down in a personal private journal?
Well, I actually do both. And I'm just going to say, you just took me back to childhood, and I wrote in my own little journal, probably with a lock, back then. So I know I was writing back then. And when my father died tragically over 30 years ago, I wrote something. And I remember part of it, and yet I can't put my fingers, I can't find where I wrote it, which is upsetting. But even then, when I had really strong emotions and intense grief, I wrote. And so now, to this day, I still have a personal journal. For the most part, it's a gratitude journal. So that's for me, and sometimes my blogs are certainly about gratitude and what I'm feeling about it on that, day or during a period of time. But I think I wanted to share it in blog form because for a while, I had a really strong pain over losing my boyfriend.
Mm.
And that was who I was all the time. And I am someone that shows up. Like I'm not shy. I'm a big communicator. What you see is what you get. And so I was in a lot of pain, and there was social media, and people were reaching out to me there, expressing condolences, and people knew where I was and I knew where I was. And so I just wanted to express it. And I also knew that people could relate because other people had loss too in their life. So, yeah.
And I think that's the power of us sharing our message, our story, and our journeys is that other people relate to us. And we sometimes might not think that what we're about to share is going to be valuable or important for somebody else, but still we need to put it out there. And that's exactly why, because we don't know. We don't know who's going through it right now or who is going to get ready to go through something that we're expressing. But we have this opportunity to help others to come out of that dark place and to come into the light. Because the title of your chapter in the book, Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities, is Grief to Gratitude and Everything in Between. And here's a picture of the book, absolutely amazing book. You can get your copy of the book by going to actiontakerspublishing.com/passion. That's actiontakerspublishing.com/passion. So why don't we talk a little bit about your chapter without giving it away?
You bet. Okay? Are you going to ask? Should I just go for it?
Go for it.
Okay. So I believe there are 10 different entries. And I chose the ones that I chose because they were all very different, some lighter than others and some pretty heavy. One of them is about, I went through a period of time where I was really struggling with depression. And it was after my boyfriend died. And it lasted for about 4 years. And I was scared to death that I would never be okay again. And this one piece, Galoshes and the Dingy Bus, it expresses completely what I felt like in the midst of depression. And then there are others that are about grief and loss in this chapter. And there are others about gratitude and the outside world and all that we can learn from it, from each other, and even from nature. There are some about how to live life mindfully and fully present. So there's a variety in that chapter.
Awesome. Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing your message and your stories in this book, Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities. Again, you can get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/passion. And I wanted to talk a little bit about your blog, and people can, let me see, I want to put the link up here. You can follow Lisa's blog here at lisajoygreenberg.weebly.com. And tell us what we're going to find when we head on over to your blog.
Well, you're going to find a little over 10 years of writing. There's a theme of grief and loss in some of them. There is there's a great deal on gratitude and the fullness of life. Just different thoughts about things that happen in life and how we can look at them from lots of different angles, not just one way. There's some writing about trauma and, seeing trauma for what it is and what happens once you get through it. If you really work through it, what can surface in your life as a result. But most of it is really about different awakenings that I have had through the last decade. And I just share that with you, with whoever wants to read it.
That's awesome. So go to lisajoygreenberg.weebly.com to check out her blog. And so I'm curious if as far as like reading your blog and, past to today, so it's been a little over 10 years since you started. Have you noticed a difference in your writing, the style of your writing, or the messages that you're writing, or have you noticed anything internal that's happening because of your writing or anything like that?
Absolutely. Well, one thing that I notice about my writing is I write using lots of metaphors. And for me, sometimes what helps me to get through a tough time is thinking of it differently. And for me, that's in metaphor. And it helps me to feel lighter sometimes. So I do write like that. I feel like I write in a flowery kind of way.
Okay.
I feel like my words are beautiful because they're beautiful to me. And from what people have shared with me, they find them beautiful and helpful and supportive too. And I have just grown as a writer in terms of my confidence level.
Mm.
I'm not afraid to say what I want to say. I feel like my confidence and sometimes my writing comes easier to me than it used to. But now that I'm a writer and I can say that I am, I find that I could be somewhere and all of a sudden something catches my eye, or I have a deeper thought about something, and I don't want to forget it. And I'll quick take out, my little notepad or my little notes on my phone, and I'll put it in there and think maybe one day I'll want to embellish on this. Or sometimes I go home that day because whatever I have felt or realized is so profound, and I need to write that day. As a matter of fact, my most recent blog about my mother, that happened. It was called The Dash. It's not exactly called The Dash, but it's about the dash between your birth date and death date on a tombstone. I had been visiting my mom's, the cemetery, and I was sitting there, and on that day, for some reason, I've been there many times, but on this particular day, my eyes just focused on that inch-long line, between the birth date and the death date. And I sat there for a long time looking at it, thinking about all that it represents. So I did go home that day, and I had to write. And it just helped me to actually feel more at peace. Because when I was sitting there, I felt sadness, and not anger, but just sadness, like, what a ripoff. Like, that dash doesn't say it all,
Right.
But then I came home and I wrote, and I felt like, okay, it's okay. So.
Yeah, that's interesting because I never thought of it like what does that dash represent, right? The from to, from birth to death. And it's like, what happened in that dash? And everybody's dash is so vastly different. And I
Yeah.
love how you took this like one simple thing like that and you went and wrote a blog about it. I think
That helps
writing,
me a
you see,
lot.
writing for me is interesting because you mentioned write kind of flowery and what have you. I'm more like, do you remember the TV show for those who were watching that were alive, back in the day, back in the 60s, this TV show called Dragnet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this guy, I don't remember, I think his last name was Webb, and which is my maiden name, by the way, and I'm no relation to the character. But he would say, "Just the facts, ma'am." And I remember that because he would always say that, and my dad loved watching that show. And that's how I write. I'm more of like a factual
Mm,
writer. So I myself, because even though I'm a publisher and I've been in 42 number one best-selling books, I've written 2 of my own books, I've written a children's book. Even though I'm doing all this, I still have a lot to learn. I've never was a writer and never was a reader. And I'm learning how to write. I'm learning how to put my thoughts onto paper. I'm learning how to elaborate so that it makes more sense for those who are reading. Because me, I'm just like, 1 + 5 = 6. And
right.
like, that's it. Like, how do you get to that, 6? So anyway, I think it's really important for us to, no matter our styles, my point here is that no matter our style of writing, we can improve if we start writing, but we do need to start writing. And that's what you did. You did, a little over 10 years ago, really started writing, putting your thoughts onto paper. It's helped you through some challenging times in your life. You've gone from this place, because in your chapter, grief to gratitude, right? And everything in between, the title of your chapter, it's like, we go through these grievous times in our lives, and we also have these gratitude times in our lives. But how can we utilize the writing as a way to move us through that? And I think it's really a beautiful journey that we can take to get ourselves into that space of really, seeing life as life and living it. And good, bad, you mentioned this in your chapter, good, the bad, the ugly, and all that stuff, is that, there's so many different things that we go through, and writing can really help us through that.
Yeah. I for sure write directly from my heart.
Yeah. I'd love for you to I'd love for you to share with the listeners today. Let's say somebody's sitting there thinking, I really don't know what to write. I don't know if I should start a blog. And if I do start a blog, does it really matter? Is anybody going to really read it? Like, I want you to speak to that person.
Mhm. If I had thought that way, and I probably did, it's been a while, I don't really remember, but then none of this would have been shared. And there have been people that have said how meaningful and helpful some of my words have been. And then I wouldn't have given myself the gift, right? I wouldn't have helped myself through the last decade. So, we can live afraid. I don't want to live afraid. I don't think anyone should live afraid,
Right.
or feel like, well, who am I? Honestly, I'm sure I thought and felt that sometimes. Like, who am I to put this out there? Who am I to publish a children's book? But you know what? We take the first step, and then that propels us to take the next step. So I think we just have to decide and see it, and then start to take the steps, because I don't want to live halfway. Nobody wants to live halfway. So don't take risks, show up for yourself. And then you'll end up finding out that you're showing up for others and you didn't even know you were going to.
Oh, that's so good. Show up for yourself, because you might not know it, but you will be showing up for others as well.
Yeah.
And really making that impact. And I love, like, for me, when I show up, it's important for me to know that I'm doing, like, I'm showing up as myself, because that's the key for me, is right, to show up as myself. But to know that I'm making impact on somebody else's life is what keeps me showing up. So it's kind of like, it's that cycle, right? Like, show up as
Yeah.
yourself, it'll make an impact, which makes you say, keep showing up as myself. And it
Yeah.
just keeps creating this amazing
Yes.
cycle and circle. Yeah.
And not just cycle, but an unfolding.
Mm.
An unfolding. Like, think of a flower, like, so you take off that first petal and you take that little step. And then that leads to something else, and it leads to something else. I mean, I've seen it in my life these last few years. It's astounding, actually. It's astounding.
It's such a beautiful place to be. Such a
Yeah.
beautiful place to be. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for, putting your heart out there and sharing your message, your story with the world to make a greater impact on the planet, in passion, purpose, and possibilities. And then also in your kindness book, and just again, showing up, showing out, and doing you. Do you, boo.
Okay.
I always love that saying. It's so cute. You do you, boo.
Yeah.
But just showing up as yourself, and I show up as all my goofiness, whatever that is. And I just think it's important for us to do that and to get those words on paper, because there's a healing that will happen with you. There's a healing that can happen with others as well by you sharing your message, your story. So just get it out there. Now you can follow Lisa. She is on Facebook at lisa.greenberg.167. lisa.greenberg.167. And also go check out her blog, lisajoygreenberg.weebly.com. So head on over there, read some of her articles. She's got them going all the way back to December of 2014. So there's plenty to choose from. You're feeling bored with your life, go read some of Lisa's blogs, and you'll see how those will uplift you and bring you out, bring you up into another place, mentally speaking. So thanks again, Lisa, for being here. Truly appreciate you, everything you do, and keep doing what you're doing, because it's really working and doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda, for having me today. Thank you for everything that you're doing as part of my journey.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy to be part of it. Now let's listen to one of our authors, Amy, her experience working with Action Takers Publishing. Thank you for being here. If you like this interview, please share it out with people so that they can hear the message as well. Thank you, and have a great day.
You took the overwhelm out of the whole entire process. You said you set the guidelines, you said how many words to have. And it's like, once I sat down and started typing, it just all came out so quickly and so easily. And I loved it. And I had fear to write. And I know about that. I know about that blockage within myself, but it just was so amazing how easy the process was working with Action Takers Publishing.